Training camp is about to begin, but I can't focus on Eagles training camp. Not yet, I can't. Welcome to the Eagles Checkdown, the fastest under 10-minute Eagles podcast there is, covering news, notes, and opinions on your favorite football team, the Philadelphia Eagles, jointly here with the Eagles Pinpole Podcast Network and the STT Sports Network over on YouTube. Guys, I'm your man, Phil Stiefel, and I know most of you will be listening to this on Tuesday, and training camp begins on Tuesday. First practice is on Wednesday. But Philadelphia's got a fever right now. It's a LeBron James free agency fever. He chose the Sixers, our brothers, across the way there at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. And it got me to thinking, before we get into training camp, talk, right? And Wednesday will be the first practice. So Thursday, Friday, we'll practice recaps to get into. I'm sure for Wednesday show, I'll have something to preview that first practice. But it got me to thinking. LeBron James is arguably one of the greatest free agent signings in the history of Philadelphia sports. So who are the top 5 free agents that the Philadelphia Eagles ever signed? Let's think about it, right? So I put together my list here, and I got my top 5. Now, I have 5 other names. I'm going to call them the top 10 or the 6 through 10, no particular order. Kind of like a 5 honorable mention names, right? We're going to start with Brandon Brooks. For a several years stretch in the NFL, Brandon Brooks was the best right guard in football. He played 6 of his 10 years here in Philly, from 2016 to 2021, 3 Pro Bowls. The guy was great. He was so athletic and so dominant on the right side of the line. If injuries didn't get the best of him, he would have continued on. So that was a great free agent signing in 2016. Asante Samuel coming over from the hated Patriots in 2008. In 3 years, he had 23 interceptions with the Eagles, all-pro player, Pro Bowl cornerback, one of the best cornerbacks of all time, right? I'll go Ricky Waters. We're only going over the last 30-ish years, right? Most of us will know what all these names. I'm not going to dip into the 60s or anything like that, or 70s or 80s. We're just going recency, right? Ricky Waters came here in 95 from San Francisco. And over a 3-year span, and I know for what with Ricky Waters, but he had over 1,100 touches in 3 years and over 5,000 combined yards from scrimmage and over 30 touchdowns. For what? Alligator arm. Still a great free agent signing. Arguably, he should be in the top 5, but we left him in the honorable mention station there. Michael Vick in 2009, I put him in the honorable mentions. I know he came over here in 2009 after being incarcerated for 2 years and out of football for 2 years. But 2010 is when Starship number 7 broke out. Top 5 offensive player of the year, 1 comeback player of the year, was a Pro Bowler, an all-pro that year. And really excited a Philadelphia fan base that was, towards the end of the McNabb era, before the Chip Kelly. It's like a weird spot in Eagles history, right? And Michael Vick really re-energized this with him and LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson and whatnot. My last honorable mention name on here is Troy Vincent. It's supposed to be like a transition signing when we brought him in here in 96 after 4 years in Miami. And what did he do? He became an Eagles Hall of Famer, 5-time Pro Bowler, 28 interceptions, 2-time All-Pro, had 28 interceptions in his time here. Troy Vincent, our cornerback tandems back in the day, after the Eric Allen era, then we go to the Troy Vincent, era, Bobby Taylor, then Lito Shepard, Sheldon Brown. Troy Vincent was a very important part of that late 90s era, mid to late 90s era here in Philadelphia on those defenses there. So let's get into my top 5, right? Number 5 on my list, Malcolm Jenkins, 96 games in 6 years. In 5 of those 6 years, he played 99% of snaps or more. 3-time Pro Bowler, super anchor of that defense that won us our first Super Bowl in 2017. Had to take over a role that was legendary from Brian Dawkins. And he did a damn good job. And I don't know if we win that Super Bowl in 2017 without Malcolm Jenkins on this team. Number 4 on my list, another guy, Zach Vaughn, an unknown when he came here at 28 years old before the 2024 season. He had 1 career start in the NFL before that, and all he did was become an all-pro, top 5 defensive player of the year and the anchor of the 2024 Eagles defense, and still is, right? I mean, he was brought in here as a depth piece, right? A special teamer, maybe a rotation, back-end rotational edge rusher. And Vic Fangio turned him into an all-pro middle linebacker. Wow. I mean, it was special what he's done. Number 3 on my list, a little controversial, because he only spent a year and a half here in Philadelphia, right? But that year and a half from Hall of Fame wide receiver Terrell Owens is one of the greatest year and a half stretches, 2021 games of all time. Came here in 04, got us that missing piece to get us to that Super Bowl, right? The first Super Bowl since the Dick Vermeil era, appearance-wise. Ended all those championship round exits by getting us to the Super Bowl. And obviously we chose wrong, him or Donovan over him. But that's another subject. T.O. is number 3 on my list. Number 2 on my list, right? Saquon Barkley, 2024. Look, I have not hidden it. I didn't want the Eagles to sign Saquon Barkley. At the time, I thought that money, and it was going to be a lot of money, could have been spent on a linebacker because we didn't know what Zach Bond was going to be. We could have upgraded the edge rushing room. We could have gotten a safety. We could have gotten so much with that money we spent on him. But, boy, that's why I don't run the Eagles, and that's why Howie Roseman gets paid the big bucks. And all Saquon Barkley did was come in here and carry us on those thick quads of his, on those thick thunder thighs of his, to 2,000 yards and our second Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley is still running strong. And I know he had a down year last year, and I hope to see a better year from him this year. But that Super Bowl run that he took us on, Saquon Barkley, this thing's a legend. He'll be in the Eagles Hall of Fame one day just because of one season. And number 1 on my list of all-time best Eagles free agents. Some people even forget that he was a free agent signing because we did draft him. He left after the 2014 season to test the waters elsewhere in free agency. And we brought him back in 2017 to back up Carson Wentz. And he sat on the bench watching Carson Wentz have an MVP season. Then Carson Wentz tears his ACL. And Nicky Foles, BDN, comes in. It doesn't even actually start very well. The Raiders and Cowboys game at the end of the year. Little hiccups along the way. We get to the playoffs. We win against the Falcons, but nothing flashy. Then 2 games, Minnesota and the Patriots. He puts up the 2 greatest performances of Eagles quarterback history, bringing us our first Super Bowl championship of all time. And after he left again, he failed elsewhere, right? Nick Foles, the greatest free agent signing ever, because without him, I don't even know who would have been our backup quarterback in 2017. Would have been Nate. Was that Nate Sudfeld? Or I don't even remember who was the third stringer. Nick Foles is the greatest free agent signing in Eagles history. All right, so we had a little fun here. We're going to get back to training camp talk tomorrow. We're going to get down to breaking down practices. Practices? Yes, practices after that as they start rolling in here over the next couple of weeks. But we're back, baby, with football. Y'all have a great day. Tune in to Trending in the AM live on the STT Sports Network, 8 a.m. every single day, 5 days a week for 90-plus minutes of sports talk. Link for today's episode's down below. Check it out, guys. Y'all have a good one. Go Birds. And always, bubbles up.